Hello, this is another Warcraft 3 audio commentary from Scry Mind, and this is going to be two solo games from the infamous self-styled legend known as Kodo's Forsaken, and he's going to be doing sort of an old school strategy called Batmaster, sort of popularized by player NC Dude, I believe. Some people say he was a hacker back in the day, I don't know, but anyway, it's gonna revolve around doing a lot of harassment with the Blade Master and taking advantage of troll bat riders to sort of surprise your opponent and continue the harassment and try to take out their main base. So this first replay is going to be against a player named My Dream. The map is Twisted Meadows. Both of these games will take place on Twisted Meadows actually. And they are games on W3 Arena, so that's generally thought of to be a little bit higher skill level than the Azeroth solo ladder. So hopefully these games will be somewhat entertaining and competitive. So as you will see, his opponent is Elf in this game, and in both of these replays actually he will be playing against an Elf opponent. And this strategy is fairly effective versus Elf. I've seen a lot of people suggest doing this with Orc, simply because how difficult it can be to defend, and yeah. So both of these players are going to be scouting, suggesting neither of them map hacks, and Kodos is actually going to scout with 2 peons, something I really hate to do with Orc. But I guess it's necessary for this sort of play style to get away with, since he's going to be skipping grunts and going for a sort of protocol type strategy with mass towers up here. And yeah, so Kodos is going to find his opponent first, and he's going to see his opponent doing a sort of strange build order here for this matchup. Typically the Elf player is going to go for archers and not really get a Hunter's Haul, I would say. Usually they're going to go for dots. Try hero dots, and that does not require a Hunter's Haul. But perhaps Blue has other things in mind. You know, the Hunter's Haul will be required for a lore tech if that's what he's going to go for. So, and you do get the benefit of a Wellspring upgrade at tier 3 if you choose to go for that. So notice that Kodos, instead of harassing right off the bat, since his opponent actually is camping his main and is going for what looks like maybe Huntresses or something, walled off his main, and is camping it with a Demon Hunter, he just goes for this troll kill here, and is going to heal up. And notice he's gotten you know, about 25% of the way to leveling up to level 2 just from that troll kill, and he's going to heal up, so it's not really that big of damage to him. And also he got a tome. I didn't actually see which tome it was, but it wasn't a tome of experience, as he will have more experience in that case. So, and he's bought a circlet, so pretty good item. And notice the Blue has ran over and also bought a circlet at the other shop, and Dust to Appearance. Now Kodos is being a little creative here, and he's throwing up a watchtower in the back of Blue's main. Since he walled his base off, he wouldn't be able to get there with his Demon Hunter without uprooting that Ancient of War. And so now he's going to go try to kill it with his Archer. And meanwhile, Kodos is chopping away on that Moonwell. Blue's going to come back just in time to sort of deal with this. And so yeah, Kodos is really protecting his main. He's keeping Blue from creeping, even though Blue is really just going for a tech strategy right here. He doesn't honestly want to try to creep with Kodos out there roaming. We know how devastating a Blade Master can be against archers, though Kodos actually doesn't have a Dust of Appearance at the moment. So, you know, Shadow Meld could save those archers. Now notice Kodos' base build is sort of unusual. A lot of times players, Orc players included, will have their base sort of clumped together, the burrows behind barracks and altar and everything else, and they'll have their burrows all together, so and near their workers, so they can quickly sort of get the workers there. Now this base build, you know, early on it might be somewhat vulnerable to attack since the bird is going to be far out away from the peons and everything, but you know, once these towers get up, it's going to be a pretty safe safe base build. So he's going to be set up pretty well in case the elf tries to go for a burrow harass. He's only got the one burrow out front, and all these towers are going to make quick work of the Druids of the Talon if he comes in, or archers. So he's got a lot of towers, and so it's going to be very hard for him, the elf player, to assault this main base. But he gives up map control skipping tier 1 like this, so he's really going to have to stay close to blue and try to do any sort of damage he can and keep him from creeping too much. Notice that blue is sort of sneakily throwing up a tree of life way over here, eyeing an expansion sort of out of the way. Maybe he can get away with it without kodos finding it, which will be good since kodos doesn't really have his Bat Rider army up yet. He's going to go for tier 3 because he needs the liquid fire to really perform this strategy, which is going to involve bombing this tree of life. It's sort of a good move, especially when the elf is going for a ground army and he has walled off his base. It's going to be hard to get back there and defend in the case of the Bat Rider attack. You know, he's probably going to have to TP anyway whenever it comes, most likely. Notice that kodos is actually roaming around. He sort of lucks out a little bit running into this, running into blue creeping, but you know, he's got, you know, blue has a lot of units. He's got the Naga right now, so you know, he's really going to be able to put a lot of damage on that on the Beastmaster if he really gets aggressive. He has actually doesn't have Dust of Appearance anymore, but you know, as soon as that Blade Master pops out, he's going to try to you know, he's going to mana burn him down, and he won't be able to wind walk anymore now that he's at 0 mana. So he's really going to have to run away. You know, this expansion is going to most likely get up, so yeah, that's going to be it's going to put kodos on notice. He really has to come in and this Bat Rider attack, you know, it's sort of an all-in situation right now, because if it fails and he starts losing too many of these Bat Riders, that expansion is just going to really put kodos in a bind. Notice he is the hero levels are about the same. Blue actually has a little bit higher level Demon Hunter, and of course now he's got the level 2 Naga. So he's going to get to creep while kodos is amassing his troll army, sort of appropriately named, since it's really sort of a cheesy tactic to do, but it's very effective. I can't really argue. You know, against dots, you know, you're not really going to want to be making a lot of grunts and things. It's kind of an uphill battle once they start getting, you know, all those dots and everything. If you go for a sort of standard, it really becomes a battle of micro and everything. Micro, macro, timing, and sort of items, I guess. So maybe kodos would prefer just to go for this sort of, it's not really per se innovative, honestly, since this has been a strategy long seen on Battle.net with the Bat Riders. But again, like I say, it is sort of an all-in strategy, because he's going to have a hard time fighting any kind of army with these Bat Riders, especially a mass archer dot army with a Naga and Demon Hunter, and especially with this expansion. So he's going to have to hope that his opponent is not prepared for this, and he really isn't. He's going for the typical master Druids of the Talon, even though Naga's, honestly, Naga's not, you know, maybe not the best. You know, it's good to sort of deal with the harassment of the Blade Master, but again, as far as pushing goes and stuff like that, you know, maybe a Beastmaster and a Fire Lord or Tinker, you know, are pretty good late game for pushing towers. Even though once they get fortified, honestly, those heroes are, you know, they're going to be good against air and you know, making mass summons. So they're not really going to be bad per se, specifically since the Naga really isn't any better against the towers as far as that goes, and she's definitely not very tanky, so she's sort of a liability if they can get in there and get some damage on the Naga. But anyway, you see that blue is adding a keeper of the Grove. He really wants to have the hero set up to counter the Blade Master, and I just hope his army can counter yellow's army. Now I'll take this moment to take a look at Kodos. He's got about 50 food, and I guess he's got about, I don't know, maybe it looks like 8 or 9 Bat Riders or something like that. So right here is sort of the crucial moment, because if this fails, he's going to be in trouble. Now blue needed to, he'd have a slight chance if he uprooted this this Tree of Life, and he didn't TP nearly quick enough, which is a terrible mistake on his part. You notice this Tree of Life is at like 300 hit points before his army even gets there. So and it goes down, and that's gonna be a huge setback for blue, because he started to throw up some Ancients of Lore, I guess thinking maybe go for bears or dryads, but now he's at tier 1 again, so bears are going to be not coming anytime soon, and also half of his economy just went down, so that's going to be also very bad. And one of the counters to Bat Riders, this Bat Rider strategy, is getting Nature's Blessing, because that's going to give you, I believe it gives you 5 extra armor on your Ancients, all of them, and but typically they're going to be going for the Tree of Life. So that would be a huge benefit to reduce that damage. And then on top of that, uprooting the Tree of Life, while it's going to really hurt, it's going to set your economy back a bit, since you're going to have to re-entangle the gold mine, and that starts to, the Blade Master can come in there and maybe cancel the entangling sometimes and everything. But it's preferable to outright losing your tech and half your economy gold income, because that's a huge loss. So see, he quit the game immediately, even though his hero levels were fine. Since Kodo knew about the expansion, it was going to be kind of untenable to try to hold that expansion in the face of all those Bat Riders. And the Blade Master himself alone, is pretty good at taking out those expansions. But going back to uprooting, it changes the armor type of the Ancients to heavy armor, and specifically against this strategy, Siege does 150% damage to fortified armor, and it only does 100% damage to heavy armor. So that's going to knock off, a third of their attack damage right off the bat from the Bat Riders. Now from the Blade Master, it's not gonna really help, but for the Siege units, that's a huge, 33.3. Now a third of the damage is like casting Curse on his entire Bat Rider army. Is essentially the effect there. So, and they can't. There's nothing you can really do to stop you from uprooting. So, it's kind of a desperation move, but it's very effective. He already had the extra income from his expansion, so the losing the gold for a little bit, losing the gold income from that mine just for a bit, was definitely would have been a better trade-off than just outright losing it forever, and losing the tech, because that, the tech itself probably less important, but half his income was pretty huge. So this next game is going to be against the player Simply Hunter, and Kodos is going to be employing sort of the same base layout almost, and similar, and he's going to go with his strategy once again. I don't know how frequently he goes for Batmaster as opposed to anything else, but honestly, I haven't watched all the Kodos replays like some of the quote-unquote fans or brats or whatever he likes to call folks on WCR. He's got a lot of people that like to support him or troll others, or whatever their motivation is. And I noticed Simply Hunter knows of Kodo's strategy. He's going to go ahead and LOL and everything. And I noticed that he's going for Demon Hunter archers. He did Ancient of War Creep. And Kodo's harassed him this game, as opposed to creeping the trolls at the shop. Sort of a little different situation. He didn't, his base wall off was a little bit different. He just walled the wisps off. And so, there maybe was, and also he was Ancient of War Creeping, so, it was good for Kodos to go there and try to harass him a little bit. And, yeah, so we're just gonna do some. He's gonna do some more creeping, and now finally Kodos is gonna go for this troll kill here. He's gonna get a tome of agility, pretty decent. The only thing better would have been a tome of experience right there for him. So now he's picked up the boots and the circlet, and he's gonna do the typical Blade Master shenanigans that he likes to do. That can be so frustrating. And now Simply Hunter is going to go for a different strategy and than the guy in the last replay. One thing he's going to do is a pretty creative use of Ancient of War Creeping that I've actually never seen on this map before. Quite this way. He's gonna, after he did this orange camp, he's gonna eat his way through the trees and go for this merc camp, which is gonna be good because it's kind of hard to see that happening. Unless you're right there at the merc camp. The army's kind of in between the trees here, which is really kind of an odd place for them to be if you're just kind of looking around for them. And the positioning works out really well for the archers as far as keeping the melee at bay. And yeah, you don't really need to keep producing archers because tier 2 you're going to want to go for the tech units, usually Druid's Talon. As you can see, that is what Simply Hunter is throwing up 2 Ancients of Wind, and he's going for tier 3. And meanwhile, his Demon Hunter is sort of keeping an eye on expansion. Now, once again, Kodos has found his opponent. He spends the entire time looking for him with a Blade Master, and he manages to catch him here. But the camp's already finished, so and the Panda is level 2. Got a pretty decent item, the Greater Heal Potion. So if you look at Kodos' base, he's doing the making the bats again, and again, it's gonna be really hard for Kodos' opponent to push him, given this base setup. Pretty good base setup actually for defense. All these towers, we all know how effective the Orc towers are. Now Kodos is gonna make a slight mistake, I guess, and get himself caught with no mana, and he's gonna have to TP out of there. So, and meanwhile, Simply Hunter is gonna continue creeping. The one difference from the last game is he didn't actually do a fast expansion, so it's a little bit different on how he needs to respond. Fast expansions against Batmaster is somewhat risky because you're gonna have to. It just gives them 2 targets to hit with their bats. And Blade Master, granted, even if you get it up, it can become a liability trying to defend both of those against a good player. I go ahead and say Kodos is a good player in this context because he has grinded so many games. He's been to the top of the solo ladder on Azeroth before with Orc, and he's played tons of games. So he's got a lot of experience, and assuming he's got a lot of knowledge about the timings, what he can get away with on pretty much every map, and how he needs to respond to certain strategies. Specifically doing this Blade Master strategy. If you grind out a ton of games with one strategy, you're gonna pretty much achieve a pretty high level with it as far as knowledge goes and skill with it. So he should be pretty good given the amount of games he's played and use of the Blade Master. And yeah, so notice he's got the fortified upgrade before Simply Hunter pushes him, which is good since he has all these Druids of Talon. I would say it's kind of a mistake for definitely not advantageous for him to push here. Even getting away from all those towers, just the Blade Master and the burrows, level 4 Blade Master is just gonna notice he's just tearing through his units. He maybe is gonna get a burrow kill, a couple of peon kills, but he threw a flame breath of fire on these towers. But then he switched targets. So that was sort of a waste. And meanwhile, he has let his main get pounded down with the Bat Riders, and once again he didn't uproot his Tree of Life. I don't know if the elf players, I assume they realize that is an option to uproot and change the armor type. Again, you are going to sort of get a little risky because re-entangling the gold mine is going to be continually at risk for the Blade Master to run in there and cancel it and everything. And he's probably just gonna move his Bat Riders back until you reroute it. And the difference here is in this situation, Kodo's opponent, he did actually have the expansion up, so he also wouldn't have suffered quite as much. Just like last game, half of his economy would have been knocked out for just a bit, but he did still have gold income. So notice Kodos is still kind of hanging around. And Simply Hunter threw out these lures, which arguably maybe not that useful against this strategy. He's gonna get some dryads, but I would usually I don't know how common it is for elf to throw in bears or dryads with this strategy. But bears, it's gonna be a long time before we can get bears since the canceled where he destroyed the Tree of Ages. And so meanwhile, now Kodos is just in sort of a waiting game here because he still can't fight Blue's or Green's army. And both of his heroes, actually he must have a Tree of Eternity because both of his heroes, or at least his Panda, has a Orb of Venom. And kind of odd that that's on the Panda, but I guess he's he's set up to staff the Panda back instead of the Demon Hunter to deal with any kind of air harass. But yeah, if the Bat Rider bomb succeeds in knocking out the main, the Orc is going to have really good chances to win unless they're way behind. Which Kodos has a level 5 Blade Master, so he's not really that far behind in terms of experience. And yeah, he's while the Demon Hunter's almost level 4, and Kodos is going to throw a Sapper at him. He actually hit his own hero with it, which sort of sloppy, but he did manage to knock down the tree. So at this moment, Simply Hunter has no income, no gold income anyway. So that Demon Hunter needed like one more kill for level 4. It would have been good if he could have. If he'd had the orb on that Demon Hunter, he could have killed a Bat Rider and hit level 4 for level 2 evasion, which is going to be good for surviving. But he did manage to snipe Kodos' Blade Master, so LOL, WTF, BBQ, GG, no reply there. So, but I think it was well worth it. He didn't really have to stay around with his Blade Master. He probably thought he was going to be able to get the kill on that Demon Hunter, maybe. And got a little bit too aggressive and lost his hero. But Simply Hunter's economy is offline for the moment. Though Kodos doesn't have an expansion, so he's still sort of on a window where he needs to. He's got 3,000 gold left in his main, but he really needs to. He really needs to start thinking about throwing an expansion up somewhere. And then fast forward it a bit as we're just having some fun hit and runs with the Bat Riders. So Simply Hunter's army, he's spreading it out, but it's Kodos is nowhere near ready to fight that army. The Demon Hunter and Panda, both at level 4, is going to be really effective against most anything that Kodos can throw at him from the bestiaries. Wyvern, Wind Riders, Bat Riders, or Raiders. Level 2 Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire, in addition to the level 4 Demon Hunter with plus 20 damage and a Gloves of Haste is gonna be pretty sick in terms of fighting an army. So, but again, level 5 Blade Master, he can work miracles as well. I noticed Kodos used some Bat Riders to creep this island expansion, which is gonna be very good. Since it's going to catch Simply Hunter off guard. He's sort of on the defensive mindset, He probably thinks, if he can keep these land expansions scouted up, he should be fine. But Kodos is actually, as you see, he's thrown up a tiny Great Hall expansion here at the top right. So, he's got the economy advantage right now, which probably is a total shock to his opponent. His opponent probably thinks, once he gets his economy back online, he's just going to be able to, sort of get map control and grind out this win. But, Kodos has been a little sneaky, and he's thrown that expansion up there. And I believe he sold the item, so there's no real, and also his hero didn't level up since he was level 5. So, sort of a disadvantage that he missed out on a lot of that experience, I think. But on the flip side, there's no real clues for the elf player that there's an expansion up there at the top right. So he's not going to even make any attempts to harass it, which would be pretty difficult, since you'd have to get a Zeppelin or something, or some air units. So, and again, those are sort of vulnerable to bat riders, Zeppelins and air units, of course. So he doesn't want to get caught over water with his hero in there, or just trapped on the island. So again, but he's throwing up his expansion. Elf is going to, once he runs out of his gold at his main, he's going to get a free expansion. So that's going to sort of give him some chances here to get back in this. And also the land expansions on this map, the mainland expansions, have about 2,500 more gold than the island expansions, which it's only it's only so much difference. 2,500 compared to 10,000, but it can make a big difference. If they've got the mainland expansions, one or two of those, and you've got 2 island expansions, that's going to be 5,000. Barring upkeep, it's going to be 5,000 extra gold they're going to get. So that could be another potential small army worth of units. It could make the difference in the game. So in sort of really long-term scenarios, situations, it's going to be sort of, on the one hand, it's advantageous in terms of defense to have the islands as opposed to the mainland, since it's harder to harass them and easier to defend them. But the trade-off is less gold if you end up mining out both of the respective mines, the mainland ones or the expansion or the island ones. So notice that his opponent's got a level 5 Panda, which is going to be just a wrecking ball against Bat Riders. So again, he's Kodos is sort of in a tough spot here, but he did get level 6 on the Blademaster, which and again, he didn't uproot, but Blade Storm is going to be very strong even against buildings, especially against the buildings with units clumped up around them. That was a really good move for Kodos. That's one of the strengths of the Blademaster. Blade Storm arguably is it costs a lot of mana, and it's kind of situational, but against expansions and everything, even towered expansions, if you got the towers next to your Tree of Life, the Orc is going to be able to really chop those down very quickly with Blade Storm. And yeah, they're not going to be able to cyclone him out of that. And as you saw, the expansion went down really quickly. Now the Pain is going to come in here and just bomb these Bat Riders. As they kill like 3 of them with the Drunken Haze Breath of Fire combination, even though they look like they were going to get away. It's a very strong combination here, but yeah, so Kodos is down to 80 mana, but he knocked out that expansion, and the elf is he's not gonna have income again. So once again, Kodos has 2 expansions running, and he's not at upkeep. Actually, he's staying under upkeep, which is kind of a crucial thing with many strategies, specifically when you're not really in a good spot to fight his army heads up. So Kodos is just banking a ton of resources. You probably should just continue with the Bat Riders and and maybe go that route. But since as long as he can keep his opponent from having an economy, he's really going to be in good shape. But So his opponent has walked his Tree of Eternity up here. Kodos he's had 2 Bat Riders hitting this main. He did take out the Moonwells, which was effective, but you know, maybe should have been hitting on this tree. But he's gonna run in here and snipe some units. He's almost actually level 7, which we could kill that Zeppelin. Man, I don't know if he saw that, or he decided not to try, or he was gonna try to snipe it when it was all alone. It looked like he was trailing it there, and he is. So he's gonna try to bat it over the trees. Oh man, it was so close. The Bat Rider actually didn't kill it, which is kind of weird. I thought the concoction would one-shot the Zeppelin, but apparently not. So I put it at like 9 hit points, but at any rate, the Panda got out just in time. Good move by Simply Hunter from avoiding that awful potential thing. If you can manage to do that on a level 5 hero, that is going to be such a demoralizing move. And I noticed that Simply Hunter staffed in here and tried to defend his expansion, but he was trapped against the trees, so he was sort of at the mercy of this stone rock golem and these heroes here. So I noticed the Shadow Hunter's level 3. He's got a Potion of Restoration, level 2 Torrent, and of course the level 7 Jubei Batmaster here with his orb and half hit points. That's still no worry to the orc player, since he's got Windwalk and, you know, Potion of Vulnerability and everything. But anyway, so now he did give sort of a clue to his opponent finally that he's at least crept these island expansions, at least one of them, because he had the Rock Golem. And if you looked at the Shadow Hunter's items, or now on the Blade Master's item, the Potion of Restoration is going to be only dropped at the islands. So he's crept 2 islands at the very least, and you can usually assume if your opponent has crept those islands, they're probably going to try to expand one or multiple of them, especially in this kind of late game situation against a ground army. Though Druids of the Talon, if the expansions weren't towered, would be pretty effective, because they can for harassing them, because they can go for crow form, fly over, and then go back to caster form, and you know, get some shots in on these peons, force them to defend. Even this one that has a tower up, he could put the Druids of the Talon over here, hit on the stronghold there, or the Great Hall, and yeah, hit the peons if they're still in range, or going to the gold mine until they go camp the tower, or whatever they decide to, however they decide to defend it. So at this point, the elf is probably pretty frustrated, because he realizes, I'm assuming, that those islands are going to be pretty safe. This expansion is going to be pretty safe if he has them. I don't know if he's scouted them actually yet. Look for his perspective here. He has scouted, he revealed one of them, and he sees the tower here and the expansion up, so I don't know if he assumed that was the only one, or he just didn't want to use the resource just to see the terrible position that he was in with these 3 expansions going for Kodos. And meanwhile, Kodos is just going to level his heroes up. Honestly, I think he should have just kept bat riding, using the Bat Riders to bomb this single expansion left, or gold mine. But it is a Tree of Eternity, so it has 2,000 hit points, and I don't know if he has actually gotten. Yeah, it looks like he's actually gotten Nature's Blessing now, so you know, he's going to be able to. And if he utilizes Uproot as opposed to that first attack, you know, it's going to be hard for the bats to get it, I guess, especially if he reacts quickly with staffing his Panda back with a Staff of Preservation. So it's gonna, you know, it might be too costly for Kodos to do that. He probably thinks he can just beat the army, which again, it's not really a bad bet, considering Kodos at some point, now he's down to about 3,400, but I believe earlier, before he started massing up, he had about 6,000, maybe even more gold than that. So you know, he can really make a huge army. Now he's in high upkeep. Maybe it would be good to stop mining right now, considering you suffer such a giant penalty for going for that upkeep. You're going to be knocking. It's going to knock you down to 40% income, which 60% of your income is off. So off of 3 expansions, it's really going to be like really going to be hurting you in terms of income. Every run of your peasant peons is going to be instead of 10 is going to be 4. So you're really going to be every run of, well, he's only got 2 expansions now. So instead of 20 for every peon coming in, you're going to get 8. So that's incredibly negative penalty. And again, Kodos has 4,000 gold. So in the long term, it really would be good to maybe do that. It's sort of a free-for-all tactic, I think. Kind of nitpicky though, because he really is in the sort of dominant position right now. Even though this Panda and Demon Hunter are really close to 6 and 6, so that's going to be really dangerous. Notice how much damage that Breath of Fire combination does to the Wyverns with Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire. And Drunken Haze itself is a great spell in terms of damage reduction. I think at level 2 it's like, I want to say it's like 60% or maybe even more than that chance to miss. So if you're hitting their entire, like, the Wyverns are really most of the DPS of this army. So if you're hitting the Wyvern, the Wind Riders, that's all their high damage units just really getting nailed with a huge debuff. And so they're going to be really a lot less effective, and that's just going to play into the elf surviving the battle a little longer and getting in even more Breath of Fires. Notice he has a Pendant of Mana, which is going to give him a ton of mana on his Panda. He's at 640 mana. He's not at full mana yet, but that's his total mana pool. So he can cast a ton of spells with that at 70 mana pop. And he's almost level 6, which is going to be another huge thing. Now the Panda's ultimate is really strong, and the same with the Demon Hunter. They're going to really ramp up in effectiveness once he hits level 6, which he just did on these towers. So Kodos is not quite doesn't quite have this game wrapped up, just simply because how strong these heroes that the elf player has are, and their ultimates. Again, they're not sort of the really situational ultimates. These are the more versatile and aggressive ultimates. Many of the heroes, they're not channeling. There's not a whole lot you can do to really counter these ultimates. Hex, is okay against the Metamorphosis, but again, it only lasts for so long. So now the thing with a Panda's ultimate is it's a little bit, he has to sacrifice being able to cast Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire. So it's really going to be beneficial to the elf if he gets in a few of those spells before he actually uses his ultimate. And I think later on he's actually gonna make a mistake and not take advantage of that fact, and he's gonna use his ultimate with plenty of mana left on his Panda. So while it's a lot of damage and abilities that he gains when he turns into 3 tiny pandas, again, he's going to lose the ability to cast Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire, which again, at the levels they are, they're huge. So honestly, in this situation, level 3 Drunken Haze as opposed to the ultimate maybe would have been just as good, if not better, against this army that Kodos is throwing at him, because level 3 Drunken Haze is some crazy chance to miss. It might be like 80% or something. It's pretty absurd. And again, you notice that Kodo's entire army is is going to be vulnerable to that spell. He doesn't have he doesn't have anything to dispel it. He doesn't have Spirit Walkers that are going to have sort of duration. I think it reduces the duration on certain spells, spell resistance for the Spirit Walkers. And yeah, again, and against the Blade Master, Drunken Haze is also going to be pretty sick at reducing the damage output of that hero. So again, I don't know if it would have made a difference. Again, attacking in these towers, sort of silly, though he does get level 6, so he can really do a lot of damage here with Metamorphosis. But again, kodo still has just a bit of income here. So as long as he can force this war of attrition to keep up, kodos is gonna have a hard time here to fight. Notice he used a ton of the mana of the panda, and he just it looked like he was gonna use his ultimate, and the Blade Master he got in a purge or something, and looked like he canceled it. Or maybe it came back to him, I'm not sure. I kind of missed out there. Maybe he was already in panda form and he just transformed back. But anyway, noob casting move on my part. And then also the elf player lost his panda, and he used his Metamorphosis, though it has a pretty decent duration, so he's going to be able to run over here and maybe fight him, maybe not. But so that was yeah, that splitting his army up like that, he did, and using all the panda's mana, you know, he got some kills over there. But you know, maybe not the best use of his time, since he ended up losing that panda and having to revive him at the tavern for quite a bit of resources. And then he went ahead and lost his expansion. So that might have been sort of a game deciding move right there. And also he's back at, you know, 500 mana, so and he's got a greater mana potion, so he's really, you know, he really needs to utilize every little bit of damage he can get with his spells in this next battle, because this army is pretty fearsome with the level 5 Shadow Hunter, level 4 Tauren, all these items. His Tauren has like 1250 hit points, and again, he's got a pendant of mana. And now he's added Taurens, and he got Bloodlust. So and again, this Blade Master is doing plus 20 damage, which on a level 3 crit is gonna be like plus 80 damage or something like that. So it's really gonna be putting out a ton of damage. You have to be pretty careful, but the elf heroes are pretty tanky right now. They have 1,000 hit points. The Demon Hunter in Metamorphosis is gonna have tons of hit points, and he's got, you know, evasion and everything. So, but his army is tiny. 80 food against 40. And notice the elf didn't even cast Drunken Haze once. That was a huge mistake. I don't know if he was just scared of getting his panda sniped, but that, you know, that was another, you know, potentially game deciding move, because if he would have thrown out Drunken Haze on all these wyverns and Breath of Fire, you know, that would have probably taken him to half hit points, and they would have been missing a ton. And then he went ahead and Metamorphosis. He was already damaged a lot. He didn't use his potion of invulnerability, so that was just that game just fell apart right at the end for the elf. You know, I think the elf, even down on the economy there, kodo suffered a ton of gold loss to upkeep. You know, it's kind of good to avoid that as much as possible. He went into high upkeep at some point. That's probably a lot of that, but notice he harvested or mined about 12,000 more gold. So even though he lost about 5,000 more from upkeep, you know, that's still, you know, still like 7,000 gold. So and he had the hero kills, and he actually killed a few more units here. They both produced the same amount of units, which is kind of amazing. Though kodos ended up with a larger army, of course, with a 95 against 66. They both actually hired the same amount of mercenaries. Again, sort of strange. Kodos obtained a ton more items. Usually probably clarity salves and everything like that. But yeah, this was a pretty interesting game. All up until the end, I would say it was a very competitive, well-fought game on both sides. The elf kind of made a huge blunder letting his main get killed with the bat riders. This was a 50-minute game, so really probably frustrating playing against a blade master, a good blade master user. For that long on a map where there's islands and all kinds of trickery you can do, as you saw, Shredder really helped Kodos keep his wood economy going. The islands, were safe, relatively, untouched actually from the elf. It was just too risky for him to. He tried at one point to Zeppelin over there, and he almost got caught with his pants down with a bat rider, but he did manage to pop his panda out before he suffered a terrible fate there. But he really sort of fell apart there at the end, losing his panda and really taking a lot of damage and having to spend a lot of resources on reviving the panda, and then he lost the expansion that he was throwing up in the meantime. So, but again, I still think he had a decent shot with just how strong those heroes are at level 6 to win that fight, at least, maybe. It was still going to come down to micro with Hex, Stomp, and the crazy Blade Master. Even perfectly microed, I'm not sure who would have won that battle. Even though the Orc, he had such a huge food advantage. You might want to say the Orc, but the Panda is very good. He scales really well at, especially leveled up at fighting armies of any size, especially ones that don't have magic immune units or some sort of means of dispelling Drunken Haze. For instance, like Undead, a lot of times they'll mask Gargs against an elf player. They're going to have access to Stone Form, which is going to get rid of Drunken Haze if you cast or if you use it. So it's possible to, if you time it well, maybe mitigate a lot of the extra damage, and sometimes you can even dodge Breath of Fire if you're if you get really lucky with the timing. It's still pretty hard to do that, especially with any sort of lag. But yeah, just getting rid of Drunken Haze is really effective. The Wyvern don't have that opportunity, so they were going to be, their combat effectiveness per se, damage output was going to be completely hosed, sitting there with Drunken Haze level 2, I assume. So that's why I would kind of argue, in that situation, I don't know that the ultimate was the best. Now it does prevent him from getting a Hex to really knocking the Panda out of the battle for maybe sniping him. It's really hard to snipe all 3 of those tiny pandas, but just getting one Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire off before you use the ultimate, can be very can be sort of crucial. But again, it comes down to can you do it? You want to risk losing the panda to maybe like Hex and Stomp combination or something like that. But I really do think he needed that. He needed that. He needed those 2 spells to hit to give him any kind of a chance there. And he definitely needed to use Metamorphosis and his Invulnerability Potion right off the bat to, or at least, before Hex went off. Just delaying Hex a little bit and keeping that Demon Hunter up was very, very important. Clearly important, since that Demon Hunter was like half of the damage output, or maybe even more of the damage output, because the elf army was so depleted at that point in the game. So hopefully you got something out of these games. I know that's sort of a cheesy strategy that Kodos was doing, and a lot of people like to call him out for sort of abusing the Blade Master and the Watchtowers. But again, the elf player was arguably abusing, or the elf players were trying to abuse their own racial things. The Demon Hunter is probably on par with the Blade Master in a lot of ways in terms of how strong that hero is. But again, the Panda sort of is another whole issue in certain situations. But again, Hex level 3 is incredibly powerful. So arguing Imba, you can do it all day. You just have to deal with it. Both elves made huge, pretty big mistakes in their games. So I won't really say they deserve to win. But I know personally how frustrating it is to go against a good Blade Master player in sort of a long-term situation with Bat Riders and all the options, Raiders, trying to fight uphill battles against Watchtowers and everything. So hopefully you got something out of this, and maybe learned a trick to kind of counter the Bat Riders with Nature's Blessing and Uproot. If you see that coming, the players weren't really expecting it, I don't think so. So anyway, this is Scrymine signing out.